This is Big Northern Bear. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to do a book review on the Haywire Heart. How too much exercise can kill you and what you can do to protect your heart. So stick around for my short review. So the Haywire Heart is a collaboration of three authors. Chris Case, who is or perhaps was managing editor of Velo News, and author of a groundbreaking article, Cycling to Extremes. So he's a nationally recognized expert in cycling for sure. John Mandrola, MD, is a cardiac electrophysiologist, as well as a runner, cyclist, and bicycle commuter. He has, obviously an extensive history in treating cardiac disorders, and he has a blog at www.drjohnm.org. You could check that out. And Leonard Zinn is a lifelong endurance athlete and former member of the U.S. national cycling team. Personal story of multifocal atrial tachycardia inspired this book. Holds a degree in physics from Colorado College. So we've got three very scientifically literate athletes who compiled all the evidence around athletes and the heart problems they have, specifically endurance athletes. So the big deal here is that we have a phenomena, like you see it all the time, is this idea that, running causes AFib. Well, that's true, but there's sort of this U-shaped relationship with exercise and AFib where doing no exercise increases your odds of AFib. Right, so if you've got a graph and we're graphing your odds of AFib across the graph, so no exercise, you have high odds. Start doing some exercise, your odds drop, and then you do too much exercise and your odds come back up. So there's a sweet spot in the middle. And me with AFib, when I started exercising, I started getting up to doing an hour of cardio a day plus powerlifting. I came across this book and I thought, well, I've done a lot of exercise and improved my AFib, but I also don't want to cross the other end. I want to know where that limit is. So this book was an excellent read. It's probably one of the only concise sources of information that is accessible to the patient and layman on this material. So a couple of things I really like about this book is, first of all, there's case studies throughout. So you'll actually read the story of an athlete and their career and then what happened to their heart and how it was dealt with. So this book is not just focused on atrial fibrillation, it's focused on all cardiac issues that an endurance athlete can come across. So they talk about runners, bicyclists, cross-country skiers, rowers, all these endurance athletes. And in every sport, you have the extreme people. You have some people that marathons extreme, some people it's the ultra. So which is worse? At what point do you cross? Is it a half marathon regularly too much? Or is it a marathon, or is it an ultra? At what point do you have problems? So, and really speaking in generalities here, but the book's good. They have some nice diagrams in the book, but mostly you're reading it to get the case studies, the background knowledge, and to understand the author's interpretation and opinion after reviewing the evidence. So, some key takeaways for me as someone who does a whole lot of cardio is that the first thing is this fear in the atrial fibrillation support groups and probably in other groups that going running is going to make your AFib worse or causes AFib in the first place. For 99% of people, this is not a concern, okay? Most of us aren't doing enough exercise. That's the truth. I mean, 99% of people, you're not doing enough exercise. Okay, so this book is concerned with the 1%, the people who are really pushing themselves. So I would say, if you're doing cardio workout sessions or endurance workout or even something like powerlifting sessions where you're exceeding 90 minutes in 2 hours on a regular basis, you really want to get this book and read this book. Okay. There's a couple other things stood out to me is that there's a big difference between the person who's been competitive and athletic their entire life and has sort of been that, let's say, marathon runner their whole life, versus someone who's 38 and has a change of mind about how they're living their life, and they get out there and they adopt these extreme sports later in life. You know, we have what they call the weekend warrior, and then we have the people who just go hardcore. Suddenly Joe down the street is into Ironman, and he's never exercised before, and within 2 years he's running Ironmans. So there's a big difference between that guy and the person who's been doing it their whole life. They both have a risk level, but the risk levels are different. So the book really gets into explaining that. The other thing I liked about the book is it actually theorized as to what the cause of atrial fibrillation is, because that's what I'm concerned with. But of course, other atrial rhythm disorders, flutter, etc. So they went into that, and there was some really interesting comparisons between the obese person, which I was not long ago, and the athletic, highly trained, high effort training athlete. The stresses that an obese person and that athlete put on their heart is not so dissimilar, which could explain that U relationship. So I don't want to spoil the book. I'm in a bit of a crossroads because I started this to share the knowledge I have learned. But I think if you're really into endurance sports and you already have atrial fibrillation or other heart problems, I hope that from this review you understand that you absolutely must buy this book. This is the book. It's the only one I found like it. Okay, so I'm going to do another book review in a bit, but for now this is the one I enjoyed reading the most because I am really into running, and I just think running has done me so much good. So I just want to say that, you know, it's sort of like how they say with diet, you know, you want to balance your diet a bit. Well, it's the same way with physical activity. Extremes are not good, but not having any is also not good. And there's a spot in the middle, which is your sweet spot, where, you know, you're enjoying it, but you're not doing more damage. You're actually, like, how do you look at exercise? Are you out there to compete? Or are you out there to rehabilitate your health? Or is it some of each? Is it a balancing act? So this book will help you have the knowledge you need to make intelligent decisions about your training with your heart condition. And again, it doesn't just talk about AFib, it talks about all kinds of heart conditions, both physical anomalies, heart attacks, heart failure, all this stuff. It's all in there, so it's a great read. So I would give this book, honestly, if you're a patient, this book is a 9 out of 10, at least, maybe a 10. If you're a patient and you want to have an active life, and there is something in here for weightlifters. You can learn from this. Okay, I'm a former champion powerlifter, and one thing I learned is that weightlifters can learn from endurance athletes, and endurance athletes can learn from weightlifters. There's actually some crossover in training adaptation that we share. So all the stresses I would say that a marathoner is putting on their heart, a power lifter, a strongman athlete is also putting those same stresses on their heart. They're just doing it in more intense, shorter bouts rather than stretched out evenly, but it's the same stresses. So this is a good book for you as well. So anyway, if you'd like to see more book reviews, or you can suggest a book that I should read, please drop it down below. I'm eager to check it out. I'm more into the books that are based on science. I'm not so much a naturopathic, homeopathic kind of person. I'm more into the mainstream science. But, you know, if something's cheap or near free, I might give it a go. So please please feel free to put your suggestions down there. And if you're interested in seeing more book reviews down the road, just subscribe and hit the notification bell. And when I do one, you'll get notified. I think the next book I'm going to do is the AFib Cure, which seems to be the AFib Bible. Everywhere you go, you're told to read that book. So that's the first book I read when I started having AFib, and it helped me too. So I'll be doing that soon. Okay? So I'd like to thank you very much.